Hello everybody, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. Today I want to talk about saws. I'm going to look at some saws that I've already got, and then we're going to look at some new products that have been sent me. They look really interesting, and I'm looking forward to trying them out, reviewing them, whatever. And we'll do some tests with them today. So the subject today is all about saws, and they're sometimes called razor saws, and you've got here some micro saws and all sorts. And it's all about saws used in modelling. One of the biggest reasons we have saws is for cutting up parts for conversion. So if you're, say, extending an airliner fuselage to make an A330 200 and into A330 400 or whatever, I don't know what the numbers are, but you would basically cut the plastic part and then insert a resin section. And then sometimes also on that resin section there'll be a great big moulded on plug which has to be cut off, and so there's various different saws for various different jobs. So if you've got something sort of fairly large and chunky, like say it's a 35th scale tank turret and it's got a great big lump of resin on the bottom you've got to cut off, then something like this is going to be great. It's a great big thick heavy duty saw. It's rigid, it's stiff, it's got a nice big handle on it. Obviously it's like it goes in like a X-Acto handle, as you can see, and it's great for the job. But for anything other than that, it's not really much use at all. It's no good for anything precise because, as you can see, it's very thick. And because of that, it's also removing a lot of material. So sometimes it's better to get something finer. I do actually have one the same as this, which is slightly finer, but haven't. I thought I'd just get this one out for this job because we're not going to be actually using them. We're just going to look at them. So that's that one. So that's good for doing your sort of butchery work or whatever, if you're removing great big plugs or stuff like that. And then we also have, this is the Trumpeter saw. It's a little saw. It's great. It comes with, I think, with 3 blades. It may be 4 and I've lost one, but it's good for what it is. It's great if you want to get down inside a cylinder. Like we've got there's a sprue here with some round parts on them. If I want to get down inside in there a cut, it's perfect. None of the other saws can do that. But for anything other than that, it's not really a lot of use. The blade, as you can see, is quite long and flexible, but it does actually bend, which is a problem. It's not like a spring steel, it does actually bend, so that is a problem. It's also quite coarse, and it's designed, as you can see there, it's designed to cut on the reverse stroke, so you pull it rather than push it. But when you're in a groove, you have to push it forward, and that's when it sort of snags and bends and stuff. The other thing I don't like about it is the way it fits in the handle. You've got this tiny little indentation there in the steel, you can see, and then there's that hole in the blade, and that goes down over that indentation, and then this piece of plastic slides forward. But while you're using it, it kind of falls back and the blade keeps coming out, and if you get the blade stuck in anything, you've got no chance of pulling it out with that. You've got to get in with a pair of pliers and pull it out. You've also got these blades here. You can see they're sort of all about the same as far as coarseness goes, but you've obviously got these little tiny ones for getting down inside little holes. So really handy for getting down inside holes. Not a lot of use for anything else because it is so bloody coarse. And the fact that it's coarse doesn't help the fact that it's so flexible, because it's great that it's coarse because it cuts a lot, but obviously when you're heavy cutting, it bends so when you push it back through. Then we've got this type of blade here. This is a stainless steel. I think this is an RB Productions. Yes, it is. RB Productions, same guys here. I've got a feeling they no longer exist, but I think there is a lot of stuff still lying around for sale. But this is basically it's a photo etched piece of stainless steel, and the problem there, as you can see again, is the bending. It doesn't flex or snap, it just bends. So as you can see, it's not good. What it is good for is getting right into corners. So if you wanted to, cut something like this into that corner, it's good because you can get right into the corner. Whereas with this one, you can't, because of the shape of the blade. You can't get right in there. So good for that, but for all else, really, not a lot of use. The other good thing about it is you've got the selectable holes here, so you can go a lot deeper than you can obviously with this one, because as you can see, once you get to this piece of steel here, and same on the back, you can't go any deeper, but you can actually put the blade in and sort of pinch it in there, so that the screws are actually up here. So it's all that blade sticking out, but again, they tend to snap very easily. So there you go. So there's the option there, but again, problem with it is it bends, and it's also very fine. So there we go. And we also have here the micro saws. These again are great for getting down into tight little areas. You can see you just break them out of the photo etched fret and they go into an X-Acto handle. So great little things. Again, the big problem with them is they bend. So great for little time, fine little jobs you want to do, but nothing, you know, if you want to do anything coarse or anything, not really a lot of use. Then this is my favourite saw, well, until today. This is my favourite saw that you've seen me use on a lot of my projects, and I've always recommended them because I think it's probably the best saw that money could buy until today. Nice round wooden handle, easy to hold. Sometimes you need a bit more grip to sort of get your squareness on there, but you know, to keep it square. Downside to this is obviously, as I just mentioned, the depth of cut. You can't go very deep because it's only got that width of blade. But as I say, you can actually take the blade out and put it in with the screws here, so you've got all the blades sticking out. But you have to be careful because they do snap quite easily. The other downside to these is I find for cutting resin, they're not coarse enough. So you've got these teeth here, which are the coarser side of things, which aren't very coarse at all, and this side here, which is ultra fine. So that's a downside, but it's good if you're looking for something fine. If you want something fine, you've got something fine. If you're looking for something coarse, for cutting resin plugs off, you could really do with something coarser than that because it does tend to get clogged up. The other disadvantage I found with these, and if you're watching my Lancaster build, you would have seen me do it. I actually was cutting clear parts off the sprue because I generally tend to use saws for cutting clear parts off the sprue for fear of them breaking. And if you remember, I was cutting off the rear end of the rear turret and managed to scratch it with these screws sticking out here. They are quite sharp. I can show you on here. They will actually, they will actually scratch. You can see there. They will actually scratch the surface because they're that sharp. So they could do it really being ground off or something. But and also you've got these great big square screw heads which don't help. So sometimes if you're in a tight space, they get in the way. They stop you actually being able to get in. So you have to use the saw the other way around. So you have to take the blade out and change it around and everything. So they're a bit of a pain, to be honest. But other than that, I've been using it and I've always sworn by this, and I would thoroughly recommend it still today. This one here is basically one of these blades which is broken. They are very brittle and very easy to snap. I did have a packet of them here and I appear to have lost it. What have I done with it? Here it is. So here are my broken blades, and as you can see, there's lots of them. I don't throw them away because they're useful for many other things. As you can see here, that would be a fantastic little scriber. Be really, really good for scribing in your parts because it's so sharp, but it's very, very fine. So really, really good for that. And as you can see here, what I've done is got a broken blade and I've super glued it to a lump of plastic, and then I can use that. I was going to show you here how easy they are to break. You can see how easy that breaks, and that is the problem with these saws, is they break so easily. But I've done this. Basically, you will have seen me use this in certain projects if you've been around for a while. And basically, if I wanted to remove this flange from here, instead of coming in with a handle, because I can't come in because this is in the way, I want to cut that off flush with the surface. I can't because I can't get in there. What I do is with this blade, I can come along and slide that blade along the surface, and as you can see, I can cut along there, and as you can see, it started to lift. But if I was doing this properly, I would be taking a lot more care. But you can come along and just cut flush to the surface, which you can't do with any other saw other than that one, which you wouldn't really want to be doing that with that. So that's what I've done there. That's why I keep my broken blades. So really, really handy. So what's happened? What have I received? If you remember a while ago, I spoke to Peter. I forgot his name then. It's actually P-E-T-R. I'm sure it's Peter in Czech. And over at Art Scale Kit, a company called ASK, this company here. And he has sent me some blades. Okay, so we've got these blades here. So we've got a symmetrical 70/70 teeth, which I think is about the same. Slightly coarser. That's probably like an 80 teeth. But this is 70/70 teeth blade, so that's just a standard blade. So we've got here isometrical 4370 teeth. Now I'm assuming this is teeth per inch, I'm assuming. But basically here we have a much coarser blade. As you can see, this one here, that's the coarser side. And you can see when I put it up against that, you can see we have a much coarser blade, which is going to be much better for cutting resin. And then here you have the 70 teeth on the other side. So, and then there's a 4343. So if all your work is with resin, I would probably suggest getting one of these because it's going to be really handy for cutting resin. You've got this one here, ultra and extra smooth. So we've got a 65 and a 100 teeth. Okay, sorry, 65 and 100 teeth. And we've got the radius ends here. Now, I cannot think what they're going to be useful for. I can imagine they're going to be really useful if you're cutting sort of into a corner. So if you were cutting an L section, I think that blade is going to be really good because you can kind of cut it like that. To see the actual uses of these blades and how handy they're going to be, you're going to have to watch my videos because I'm going to be using them all in different little situations. This one here, this is called the Octopus, and it's a brilliant little thing, a fantastic idea. I am going to be trying this out here. I've got some bits to try it on, so I'm going to try this out. We've got that radius there, and we've got the circles there, and I think that's going to be really good for special little projects. And this one here is called the Batman. Again, it's the same sort of thing as the Octopus, obviously on a larger scale. And when you are cutting on a radius, this is going to come in really, really handy. So that fuselage section I talked about, if you're going to cut off on a line, on a panel line, you know, using an ordinary saw, you've only ever got, if you're cutting something round, you've only ever got that much blade in contact. You've got a single point. Whereas with something like this, you're going to have more teeth in contact with the surface, so it's going to stay in the panel line a lot easier. Again, we'll give that a go in a minute. So that's the actual blades, and as I say, these are the ones he sent me, and I was only expecting to get some masks for the Lancaster, which I must get on and use. And he sent me a great big box of stuff. In fact, here's the paperwork. That's all the stuff that I got. So absolutely incredible. He's also sent me these two handles, which are really nice. So we've got a symmetrical and an isometrical handle. And basically the difference is, if I get them both out of the packet, this one is 200T0020 and this one is 200T0021. And there's a couple of nice features about these that I really, really like. One, they come with an Allen key. So you have an Allen key screw head here on a button head Allen bolt. Okay, so you haven't got that sharp edge sticking out. It's going to touch things, especially on the ends there where you've got the end of the slot for the screw. That's very sharp and will scratch. You're not probably going to scratch anything with that because it's radius. And also the back is pretty flush. Now again, come along with a mini grinder and just grind them off and you'll have a totally flat back surface, which would be nice. We've also got in here, this is the coarse and fine blades. I think that's the 43 and the 70, isn't it? So you can see we've got a nice coarse blade on there, but also we've got this handle which is isometric, and I know a couple of times I've used this, I can't think when, but I've used this and I'm sort of in an area and I want to be able to get the saw lower down, so I'm kind of holding it like this to use it, whereas with this one you can get the blade much lower. Like with this one I can do this, but you can see I've still got the blade is still like 10 millimeters off the ground, whereas with this one I can get right down in and still hold the handle. So very, very nice, and I like the fact it comes with the Allen key as well. That's pretty cool. Saves you hunting around in your box because scale modelers don't tend to need Allen keys very often. So that's the isometrical one, and here's the symmetrical one, and this is obviously going to be a direct replacement for this one. And you can see you've got a plastic handle rather than a wooden handle. Easier to clean, I guess. It's going to offer you better grip. But, you know, other than that, it's just a plastic handle rather than a wooden handle. Again, I think these blades are going to be interchangeable. So, again, we've got the button head screws with the Allen key included, which is a really nice touch. And I'll show you on here because it's so much easier to take apart than the other one, because Allen bolts are easier than screws. And you will be able to use these blades, if you've already got one of these handles and you don't want to buy a handle, you can use those blades in there. You can see they will fit and line up with the screw holes and everything. You can see they're basically the same size, slightly narrower this way, but otherwise they're the same size. They're just like a razor blade. And as I was saying earlier, what you can do if you want to is come along with your screws, put them in like this. You could do this on either of them. Okay, just put that in like that, a couple of turns. Just put that one on the end of that Allen key like so, and then plonk that one in there. And then if you want to, you can make yourself a very deep cutting saw like that. Okay, so you can get deeper, but remember you've got a lot of flexibility there, and they are going to be quite brittle. Unfortunately, to be strong, to be hard, to make them a good saw, they have to be brittle. So fortunately it's something you have to put up with. If they're flexible like this, okay, that's all well and good, but they will bend like that, and it renders the saw practically useless. So there we go. So we'll give these a go now. Now this is the, as I say, this is the 4370 tooth blade in here. And I want to show you what I'm talking about when it comes to cutting resin. Because cutting resin plugs, resin mold plugs off of parts is always a bit of a nightmare. As we all know, it's extremely hazardous because of the chemicals that are in the resin, isocyanates and stuff. So you always want to wear a mask or wet it or whatever. That's another advantage with this. You can get this soaking wet and dry it off. With that one, the handle will absorb moisture, so there's another little advantage. You can see what I've done there. I've pushed the blade that way to bias it to get me more depth. So you can get a little bit more depth by doing it like that, pushing it over. So we'll get all this paper out of the way. And what I've got here is, these are some of my resin intakes for the HK Models Lancaster. So on the back here you can see there's a resin plug, okay, and it's quite thick and it needs to be cut off. Now we'll use this one first. I'll use the coarse side. This is a brand new blade. This is a brand new blade, just to keep the test fair. And what I will do here actually is I will move this blade. Oh, this is always a problem trying to find a bloody something to do these screws with. I will move that blade out to make it the same, and you can see I can't, it's the wrong way, I can't move it over as far as I can with the other one. The other one has larger holes. So there's another little benefit. You can see that one's got, oh no, maybe it's about the same. Yeah, it's about the same actually. So if anything, maybe that one is slightly deeper. Yeah, that one is actually slightly deeper. So that one's, because the blade is wider, then we've got slightly more depth. And you can see here, if I use this blade, you can see here, it cuts absolutely fine, but it's not going through very quickly, and already it's starting to bind. And I'm going to wet it. I'm going to wet it because I don't want the dust in the air. Okay, so pick up the groove again. Get in the groove, as Madonna said. And already it's becoming very difficult to cut because it's all binding up, because the blade is quite fine. Whereas with this one, this is the first time I've tried this. I'm not going to go into the same groove. I'm going to make a new groove because that blade might be wider and that wouldn't be fair. But basically I'm going to cut, and you will see it's going through a lot quicker and it's extremely easy to cut. And now we're down as deep as we can go, and you can see we're only halfway through. So what we do now is we turn it over, come back to the other side, and then you will see how quick this goes through this. And it's absolutely flying through that plug, and it's extremely easy to cut with as well. Now I'm going to have to pick up the groove where I cut before. Yeah, and the blade's going to bind in that because this blade is obviously slightly thicker. I haven't got my cuts matching, but basically that will snap off of there with a little bit of effort. Get something like a rule in there, get something in there to jam it open, and it will snap off basically. Come on, bloody camera's on, you can tell that. There we go. That will just break away, as you see. So there we are. So we've broken that away, so now we can get some coarse sanding and sand it off. So that's the beauty of that coarser blade. So there's one benefit straight away. I'm just going to get myself cleaned up a second and I'll be right back. Alright, so that's the area cleaned up a bit. So if we were in a situation where this was the base and all this up here had some really fine detail on it or something, and we didn't want to be holding it down like that and cutting it because we're going to damage something, this is where this isometrical handle comes in, because if I'm holding it like this, you can see it's very awkward for me to get down in there because I have no depth. Whereas with this one, it's going to be really easy for me to get into there and cut close to the surface. As you can see, I can go around and I can cut away to my heart's content, and as you can see, it's not too difficult at all because of this isometric handle, and that's making life really easy. I'm not going to continue to cut because I don't want to make too much dust, but so there's the isometric handle. And as I said, I've often been in situations where, let's just say, you know, you've got this lump on here and you're going to cut it off because you're going to replace it with some aftermarket or something. It's, you know, you don't want to leave too much to sand, so it's good to get really close so you can get right down close to remove it. Whereas with this one, it's difficult because you're trying to hold the handle and the handle's getting in the way, it's rubbing on the wing. So that's going to be really good for that job. So perhaps if if you're on a budget and you've already got one of these and you want to order some of these blades, perhaps order one of these handles. So the isometrical one. So that's the symmetrical there, and that's the isometrical there. So all in all, a handy little set of tools. Let's have a look at these different blades. So as you know, we've seen, I mean, a blade is a blade basically. So we're going to look at these special shaped ones. So here we have the twin course, as I say, 4343. So that's what I'd recommend if you've got resin. That's the 4370. That's what you're getting with your handle. And then you've got the symmetrical 7070. So that's a double fine. So you've got all options open there. As far as cost goes, the handles are €20.60. So that's roughly £18.30. That's Pizza Hut texting me, trying to tempt me into having a pizza because it's Friday and I might break. We shall see. So yeah, these handles here. So this one here, the symmetrical, is €20.60. So that's about, I think it was about £18.30 that works out in the UK. And the isometrical is £22.80. So that's going to work out about, what's that, about 16 quid, I guess. At the moment it's about 113, 114 the exchange rate today, so that's the prices I'm quoting. So yeah, €22.60 for €22.80 for this one, and €20.60 for that one. Which for a saw handle with the blade as well, I don't think that's too bad. So very, very nice little tools indeed. The blades, they are the normal one. Okay, so the 165. Where are we? Over here. This is the, I'm just looking here. Yeah, these blades here are roughly €15 for a pack of 5, or €4 or €3.70. So all the blades, I mean, this one here, which one's this? T001. That one there is €3.70. 9 is €3.70. 13 is €4. This one is 26 is, where's 26? Is €5, and that one there is also €5. They're obviously a lot harder, it took longer to cut or something, but they're going to be EDM, aren't they? So so those are €5 and the others are €4 or €3.70 each. So not too bad at all. So this one here, this is called the octopus, And I think this is going to have some really good uses for things like wing leading edges. Now I'm not sure how this is stuck down on here, and I don't want to snap it, so I'm going to be carefully getting rid of the rule and slide it off without trying to break it. It's obviously been on here quite a while because it's very, very well stuck down, but it's better than it being damaged in the post, I guess. So there we go. So that's come off of there. So this I think is going to be very, very handy for wing leading edges. I'm not going to put it in a handle. I'm going to leave it separate because I don't think it needs to be in a handle. But as we know, when we do wing leading edges with a saw, we do the panel lines, we sort of have a, let's use this one. Let's use this one, the symmetrical. Got the fine side there, and we end up with, like, we go along the panel line and we end up sort of cutting a line around the top, and it's never that easy. Look at that, that's come out perfect as it would because the camera's on, but it's never that easy to get the both perfectly in line. But I think with this one, because you've got this radius blade, I think it's going to make life a lot easier because you can, that's it, it's done. And you can see I had to use hardly any movement to get it done, and you can see it's gone all the way around there. And same here. We could use the smaller radius as well. So get that in the groove there and then just roll it around. So it's absolutely brilliant for stuff like that. As I say, this radius on the front here, I'm not sure if this would be any good for doing. Yes, so that's actually working quite well as well. You've got the radius on the front of that blade, which enables you to roll it around. I'm trying to do this and not doing a very good job of it. It enables you to roll it around like so. But I personally think this radius is going to be great for when you're cutting into a corner or cutting the inside of a circular shape out of something. So also, like we say, I got some bits here I've stuck together. This is a bomb, and again, those panel lines around the outside, I can get into there, get both sides of that in that groove, and just follow it around and stay in the groove. And that's going to put my panel line around my bomb for me. In fact, I've just found another fantastic use. If you use the leading edge as a scriber, you can put the back edge into the groove, put the front edge into the groove, just like so, and then just roll it around. Let's get a smaller one for this one back here. Okay, let's go smaller again. Put the back end into the groove, put the front end into the groove, as you can see there. Okay, I've got both edges of that blade is in the panel line, as you can see, and then just literally roll it around. Look at that. Or put one side in, one side of the seam is what I'm looking for, and then just roll it around. That seems to work really well. In fact, it's better to have it. It seems to be. It's better to have it as close as you can to the actual radius of the part you're trying to do. So yeah, that works really, really well. So here we go. I put the back end into the panel line there, put the front end in the panel line there, and then just roll it around. And it's put the panel line perfectly around without running out of the groove. What a great little tool that's going to be for doing that. So you can imagine along your fuselage spines and underneath and everything, it's going to be absolutely brilliant for that. So there's that one, that's called the Octopus. Now this one here is called the Batman, and I believe this is going to do a similar job, just on a sort of larger scale. We'll get this one off of here without breaking it, if we can. I would seriously suggest, if you get some of these, I would soak that in some thinners or something to remove the glue rather than risk breaking it, because they are quite brittle. So this one's called the Batman, as I say, and I think this one is going to do the same job going around radii. There we go, it's doing a wonderful job. So what a brilliant idea, having a radius blade. And then, as I say, if you're cutting a fuselage or something, you know, rather than have a straight blade like this and try and follow around, with this one you've got a lot more teeth in contact, so they're going to stay in the groove a lot better. As you can see here, if I wanted to cut this off, you can see that staying in that groove a lot better than a straight blade would, a flat blade. And you can see that panel line has been reproduced perfectly. So there we are. Very, very happy with these. As I say, the only way to really properly test these out is to use them. So if you want to go and get some and give them a go, then go for it. Or if you want to wait and see what I do with them, then wait. But as you can see, it's hard to do on here because it's covered in super glue, because this wing keeps breaking in half. This is the problem when you have cheap kits. You have no support in the wing. They just, as you can see, they just split open like that. That's the problem. So that front edge is covered in super glue, so it's really hard. But very, very handy little tool, and I think this would also make a very good scriber. Let's give it a go. So we'll get a straight edge on here. Because you've got this radius, you've got a tooth on the front edge. In fact, we'll try it with the octopus. We've got a sharp edge on there. So you come along with our rule. Feel that panel line. Come back. 2 cuts. And there you can see, perfectly neat, tidy scribed line. So very, very nice for that as well, and also very narrow. I haven't measured the thickness. Let's see how thick they are. 0.11, so just over 4 thou. These are slightly thinner. Oh no, 0.12. So they're both going to be roughly the same, 4 or 5 thou, something like that. So absolutely wonderful. And as I say, if you want to see them being used, I will be using these now from here on in. I won't be using this again unless I have to, unless these break or something, but I can't see they're going to break. They're like a solid resin, they're quite weighty, and you know, if you're going to break that handle, I think you're doing the wrong jobs with your saw. But yeah, we shall see how we get on. But as I say, you'll see me using these now going forward, doing all sorts of little jobs. And I'm really, really chuffed with how they work, especially for this panel line work. Really, really happy with that, because we all know that panel lines on a radius are difficult. And this one here, you can go in, as I say, the groove. Go into the groove, and then just roll it back. Into the groove, just like that. And there we are. Then we've got that radius on there, which I'm guessing, yeah, it's making it a lot harder to do. It's a lot easier with the radius that way, a concave radius rather than a convex radius. So as I say, keep watching, keep smiling, and hopefully you'll see me using these in lots and lots of different ways. Thanks for watching. If you want to get yourself some of these, Art Scale Kit is the website. I'm looking for it now. Where is it? There you go. Art Scale, www.artscale.eu. Go to the tools, look at the saws, and go for it. Just get yourself some. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.